In the 1980s, we all wanted a hot hatch and we wanted a GTI, and there were two GTIs that were sitting at the top of the desirability ladder, if you like. One was the Volkswagen Golf GTI that was solid, precise, efficient, very German. And then there was the upstart, feisty, fun, and French, the Peugeot 205 GTI. And like the Golf, the Peugeot 205 GTI was based on fundamentally a good basic car, the 205. The 205 ran from 1983 to, well, for about 15 years. It was hugely popular. In fact, it's credited for giving Peugeot a second lease of life, actually saving the company. Now, in terms of styling, whereas the Golf was sharp-edged, angular, boxy, quite serious looking, this one is sort of more rounded, more organic, pert, cute even, I would say. So the 205 got fully independent suspension, which it got from Citroën. Of course, Citroën Peugeot were part of the PSA group. Now in 1984, they introduced the GTI version, which ran for 10 years. Now initially it came with a 1.6 litre engine, about 105 horsepower, although that was up by about 10 horsepower in 1987. But in 1986 they introduced this car, the 1.9 litre. Now this thing had 125 brake horsepower, could do 0 to 62 miles per hour in 7.8 seconds. Not bad for the day, top speed of 128 miles per hour, and it could still do 39 miles per gallon. What really helped was how light the car was, less than 900 kilograms. By comparison, the 1.6 did the acceleration run in 9.5 seconds at a top speed of 118, but was better on fuel economy at 39 miles per gallon. But who cares about fuel economy? The other way to spot a 1.9 over a 1.6, it did get the bigger 15-inch Speedline alloy wheels instead of the 14-inch, but it also got front and rear disc brakes, whereas the 1.6 only got front disc brakes and drums at the back. There's also the beefier bumper valances on the GTI model, wider wheel arches, well, larger wheel arches I should say, but also wider because of these extensions here. And also it had stiffer springs and the car sat a little lower. Now back in the day, these were very popular with the likes of, well, people like myself really. And the trouble is that they would get stolen or they would get crashed, and what that meant was the insurance prices just shot through the roof, and eventually they became too expensive, too prohibitive to own because of that. That happened to all of these kind of cars. There was also an even more powerful version, of course. There was the T16, which was the road-going version of the WRC car. They did enter this into the World Rally Championship as well. 200 of those had to be made for homologation. They are rare and very, very valuable. What about this one? Well, brand new at the time, you'd probably pay around £12,000 for one of these. Today, probably around the same actually, or maybe even a little bit more for really good examples like this one. And talking of this one, we are going to do a full review on it, so I'm going to look at the practicality, I'm going to look at the interior, and then I'm going to take it for a drive. The great thing about these cars, although they are small cars, but because of the packaging, there's a surprising amount of room on the inside. So on this one in particular, check that out. That's actually a massive boot for a car of this type. I mean, you could probably put two of those larger suitcases that you would take to on an airplane journey. You could fit those in there, no problem at all. And if you needed more room, you've got split folding rear seats, so 50-50 split folding seats. You could fold those down, give yourself a little bit more room. There's nothing, of course, underneath here, but there are two bolts over here. What are the bolts for? Well, because if you open them up, you release the spare tire, which actually sits underneath the car. Where is the tool for that? The tool for that is actually kept in the engine bay. So not bad at all practicality-wise in terms of rear cargo space. Can I, 6'2" with long legs, get into the back? Let's find out. There's a little lever here, which you just lift, the whole seat lifts. That's really handy. I mean, it gives you actually quite a lot of room to actually get in here. And it's easy for me to get in here, and I'm also quite comfortable now. But what if I put the seat back? Now the seat obviously is set for my driving position. 6'2" with long legs. 6'2" with long legs in the back. That's not bad. I've actually got room here. There's room behind the seat. And these are bucket seats. I can fit in there. There's a decent amount of room for my feet. And actually it's not too bad. Even the headroom is a bit tight, but it's not too bad. I couldn't spend a long time in this, but I could certainly do short journeys. Again, another reason why these older cars were so handy in terms of fitting people and their belongings. Time to get in the front. That's so easy to do. So here we are in the front of this little thing, and again, you know, two things. First of all, from the outside it's small, so you get in, you expect it to be small, you realize it's a bit smaller than you were thinking. It is actually really compact. However, there's so much room, and it's so airy because the pillars are so thin. It's like a typical thing with older cars. The visibility all around is fantastic. It's got very small mirrors, which have got manual controls, but it's fine, and the wing and the rear view mirror here. But you can look over your shoulder and you can see all around the car, so you're not really missing anything at all. Now the car itself, look at this old school architecture. Everything is blocky, but everything works, you know. This is your ashtray where you've got a lighter as well. There's a little compartment up here to take that little coin box. That's handy for way back then. Glove box, which, there you go, which is okay, it's not too bad. Down here you've also got another compartment, there you go. And actually, it's a pretty deep bin actually, right? You could put quite a lot of stuff back into there. Then there's another little tray here. Nothing back here, but you get a traditional handbrake, obviously the gearbox, and then you got your instruments, which are straightforward. Fully analog, of course, no screens or digital or anything like that. And you've got a lot of temperature warnings here. Fortunately, this car is fine. Haven't seen any issue with that. Your fuel, and then of course your odometer and your rev counter, and of course your speed. Over here there's another tray down here, and the buttons for the windows are actually on the doors on the sides here, which is a little bit unique. And then there's a pocket as well. This one has got the original stereo and the cassette player, and the cassette player actually works. Non-power assisted steering, so a little bit of a work when maneuvering at lower speeds. Indicators and lights are on this side, and the wipers are on that side, and also a rear wiper as well. So when you twist it, you activate the rear wiper. So wow, back then, that's really cool. Look at the pedal arrangement. This is amazing. Like, you can heel and toe without even trying in this car. They are meant for that. They are there to entice you to heel and toe, even if you weren't planning on doing it. It's just absolutely amazing. The gear lever itself, straightforward H pattern. It's a dogleg reverse, so you just have to lift up that lever to do it. And it's not the most precise thing in the world. It's quite springy, but having said that, you never miss a gear. Likewise, the clutch as well is quite light, and it's short travel. It's not as long as you might think, but the biting point isn't as obvious, but never had an issue with it. It works really well, so that's all good. So I'll tell you what, the next thing to do really, and look at these fantastic bucket seats. I mean, the seats are just brilliant, and these give you a lot of support. It can be a little tight in the lower regions, but otherwise that gives you a lot of support, so they're really good. You have basically fans, no AC or anything like that, but you do have some fans, and the warning lights are down here. Right, let's take you for a drive. Okay, so let's give this thing a go. It's a little bit wet, but that's all right. And oh my God, this car, 34 years old, and it still thinks it's 1988. It's crazy. Fizzy engine wants to rev, that's for sure. Work up to the gears so easy. The gears are very light. I tell you what, the heel and toe on this car, the pedals, like even if you don't want to heel and toe, you can heel and toe in this car. I have never driven a car where it's so easy to heel and toe, honestly. But the car, the tractability in any gear at the moment, I mean, this is not a heavy car. There's not a lot of power, but you don't need a lot of power. Look at this. And oh, the grip is amazing on this thing. Actually, you can see why it was a rally car. And you think that they talk about lift off, oversteer, or understeer. I mean, I'm not sensing, even in this wet weather with very slippery road conditions, I'm getting a lot of confidence. You're getting a lot of feedback to the steering wheel, that's for sure. And it's very accurate. I mean, look at this. It's very accurate. It's very responsive. You're getting a lot of feel. It's very planted. You can see why people would hoon along back roads in these things, because you would get so much confidence in the way that the car is talking to you and what you're getting from it. And there's plenty of performance, but the reality is I'm still doing only less than 50 miles per hour. 60, look at that, that's had it. This is a 60 mile per hour road, I'm going, as fast as I want to, but I'm still actually only doing 50 miles an hour. And that's the thing with the car. That's the thing with these old cars as well, is that you can have so much fun. Oh, and still it's just spinning the wheels. But the thing is, like, you can feel what it's doing. There's a tramline shunt is happening, but you can feel what's going on. You can feel what the car is doing. You can feel the grip is still there. It's not losing anything or whatever. My God, this is fun, even in these terrible conditions that we're in right now. And it's still hilarious. And it takes me back. I'm transported back to the 1980s and cars like this where you could hoon them. You could feel every aspect of them. There's no electronics at work here. Look at this. Oh, brakes are good. I mean, remember, this one had 4-wheel disc brakes. And a big improvement over the 1.6, but actually solid again in these wet weather. I mean, I haven't looked at the tires on this car, but they must be pretty good because the grip seems fantastic on this car, considering what it is, and considering the conditions that we're in. It's truly confidence inspiring, that's for sure. But the steering is heavy. There's no doubt about that. Let's not be in any doubt about that. Non-power assisted. And at lower speeds, I mean, you really want to be moving before you try to maneuver this thing because the steering is heavy. You don't want to be doing what a lot of people are used to doing now, which is actually turning the steering before they move. This is old school. Move the car, then turn the steering wheel. But having said that, at lower speeds, it may be a little, well, it's a good bit of a workout, let's be honest. But at these sort of speeds, it's perfect. It's beautifully weighted. It's exactly what you want. There's enough resistance in the steering, but there's also feedback. You can feel what's going on. And it's giving you a lot of confidence. And even in these conditions, it's just amazing. I keep saying that, but I'm just really surprised. I thought this car, again, by reputation, you read about, lift off over that. Oh, it's so beautiful how you can do that. You turn in, look at that. And yeah, you can actually steer it on the throttle, but it's not like, you read about this car. I've never driven one of these before, and you read about them, about the lift off oversteer and stuff like that. But it's like you get the impression that there's some kind of, that it snaps or anything like that. It doesn't. There's actually a very natural transition between, the understeer and the oversteer. So yes, you can control it on the throttle, but it's not like snap and, oh my God, I have to correct it. No, it's like, okay, let me just adjust the attitude of the car, and it's absolutely fine. We are now on the bumpiest road I know. And one of the great things about these old cars is that nowadays there has to be such a compromise between dynamic ability and the ride setup, the comfort setup. But these cars, they're simpler, and actually the independent suspension, I said they're simpler, but actually this was very sophisticated for its time. But having said that, the compromise is much better. So this road right now that I'm on is one of the bumpiest and worst roads that I know. It gets worse up ahead, but even so far, it's been absolutely fine. The fact is that this is a light car, so the suspension is set up in such a way that, look at this, I can just go turn in and then power on, and I can just judge exactly how much power I then need. It's brilliant. So this is the bit that's really bumpy. You can see me moving around, you can see the car moving around, but having said that, it's not jarring, it's not jolting, it's not rearranging my spine, it's not doing anything like that. It's actually quite well damped. Yes, there is movement, but it's damped movement. So, it's really, really very good. So, oh man, I tell you, it is, you can see why people, you just used to fall in love with this car the moment they drove it, because it's a frisky little thing. It's a frisky little thing, but it wants to have fun. And the great thing is that you're having fun. You're not going that quickly. You really aren't going that quickly. It's all in control. It's all, there's nothing here to alarm or scare anybody, put it that way. Good thing on this particular car, the wiper blades are pretty good. So even though it's raining, and you can see the wipers are working very well. It's got rear wipers. So you just turn this thing, it's got rear wipers, it's got demisters. And what more do you need? I mean, it isn't the greatest stereo in the world, but it's alright. It's got a radio player. I mean, do you really need that? You could always swap that out, change the speakers. That's what you used to do back in the day, right? What else? The seat is actually really body hugging. It's actually really tight here, and the bolsters on the side here. This is a real bulky seat, a real bucket seat, and it really holds you in. So if you're a little bit ample of behind, then you might find it a little bit tight. For me, it's okay. It's not too bad. But it does hold you in, which is, of course, what you want, right? But it's very comfortable. You can adjust the seat. I've got it quite upright. I like it like that in a hot hatch like this. I feel that that's how it should be. but it's very good. Visibility all around is unbelievable. I mean, literally, like, this is the old car. This is a great thing about old cars, is that you can just look around, you see everything around you. And it feels, the main thing, the thing I should have said right at the beginning, is that when you get into this car, it reminds you how small they are, the old cars, you know, because it feels really, really compact inside. So again, in a wet roundabout, on throttle, off throttle, turn in, not an issue at all. And doesn't do anything untoward or alarming or terrifying or anything like that. It's built up a little bit of speed on this bit now, and again, I mean, I had it on the motorway, drove it down the motorway, it was absolutely fine. Of course, a bit of road roar, of course, a bit of wind noise, but, you know, not too many rattles. And here's the other thing, here's the other misperception I've always had about these cars, because they've been described as, you know, very delicate, like tin construction. They've been, you know, not the most solid of build quality. I have to disagree. I think that for a car, again, of this age, and of course this car has been cared for and it's obviously been looked after, but having said that, the fundamentals of the car are still the same. You know, the architecture of the car is the same, the structure is the same, and it's far less rattly and shaky. Although you get quite a bit of scuttle shake in the wing, in the rear view mirror. You can see lights in the back just bounce. It doesn't look like it, but when you see lights in the back, they're jumping around, and you go, okay, there's quite a bit of shake there. But other than that, it feels incredibly solid. You know, it feels actually really, really good, and remarkably, you know, much tighter than I was anticipating or expecting. And it's again one of those things where, you know, perhaps at the time it was true in comparison to other cars, and perhaps I'm looking at it differently now because the car is a classic. But having said that, you know, I equate this to driving a modern car. I really do. I don't see that there's that much. Yes, I mean, you don't have all the comfort features, the niceties, you know, non-power assisted steering, all the rest of it. But other than that, it feels absolutely fine. I don't feel like I'm making a huge amount of compromises. Certainly things like, you know, you think about the braking and stuff, which is always a worry with older cars. Not with this one. Huge amount of water coming up. Braking, again, consistent. It's not bitey. It's not like snap. Oh God, that's just gonna make the car very dirty. It's not bitey. It's not gonna like snap the wheel. You're not gonna lock up the wheels unless you're like really brutal with it. But overall, it's very, very good. But again, it's just how fluid the car is, you know, how talkative it is, how connected you feel with it. It's just fantastic, and really you can see why this car was such an icon and such a hit back in the day, you know, and why people loved it so much. Oh man, it's just it's fantastic. It is everything that people say plus more, and also I would actually dispute some of the downsides that people claimed about this car. I'd actually now dispute some of those things, because I think that you know, it's not a snappy car. It's not something that you need to worry about when you're driving, and also it doesn't feel as light and, you know, delicate or fragile as I was led to believe. It actually feels pretty good, pretty strong. This particular car, not bad at all. There's a little bit of an idling issue, so sometimes it cuts out. Like now, you can just start to feel it starting to bounce off the rev counter, and it starts to feel like it wants to cut out. Sometimes it does, but other than that, it's absolutely fine. So all good. There you go. There's my review of the Peugeot 205 GTI. Let me know what you think of this car, and also share your own experiences with this car. If you've had one of these, if you've driven one in the past, let me know what your history, your experiences were with this car. Thanks so much. I'll catch you all in the next video.
A big shout out and thanks to Jay Williams over at AirTechnic, who are top tier sponsors of Brown Car Guy. Check them out at AirTechnic Co. UK for exhausts, brakes, suspension and body kits. Plus our other major sponsor, Neogen Solutions. Much appreciation also to tier 4 sponsors, Muhammad Ali Humaid, Tom Conway Gordon and Reza Adil. And of course all these other guys who supporting on Patreon. Brown Car Guy is eternally grateful. Hey, think about joining them over at Patreon.com Brown Car Guy. If you can't, don't worry. Just make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel and website. Plus follow on social media by searching for Brown Car Guy.